Well, a European in the sense that I want people to go into the film with correct expectations. I feel that European cinema tends to be a lot more challenging in its content, you know, push the audience further than a lot of films in the US do. At the same time, a lot of people, you know, like want to very quickly put your film into a box. They want to call it a horror film or a thriller. And I just want audiences to come in with the proper expectation of it. So by sticking European style thriller in front of it, it gives you more of a sense of what the tone and the fold of the film is going to be. The best experiences of Proxy is that it kind of unravels and there's many twists and turns. I mean, the film itself is kind of a response that so many movies you see today. I mean, we've been many generations of film goers, and I think audiences have become really savvy of how films are told. So generally in the first 10-15 minutes of a film, you have a good idea of what the story is, what the tone is, who the characters are, what their relationships are going to be. And so Proxy is kind of a response to that, to sort of take those expectations the audience has and hopefully turn it on you so that you are consistently surprised and engaged throughout the film. Proxy is my fourth feature. I think the best thing you can do as a filmmaker is just trust your instincts. So I just do what feels right to me. I try not to overthink anything. I feel that every shot in a film, every cut in a film makes sense. They're all part of telling the story in a narrative way. And I just try to do what feels right to me as the filmmaker. And so the sequence in the beginning where the film takes a drastic turn and becomes something else entirely, I felt I needed to build sort of a marquee sequence around that part of the film. And so slow motion was just, you know, of course I'd been seeing what Von Trier was doing in Melancholia and Antichrist, and I kind of wanted to use slow motion in a different kind of way. I feel that writing, producing, directing, and editing are all just one job. They're all intertwined. When you're writing a film, you're thinking about what the size of your cast is going to be, what your budget's going to be, what your locations are going to be. So really you're producing the film. And you're editing the film at the same time, and you're staging the scenes, and that's directing the film. I consider them all one job at this point. I'm very monotonous with my films. I live one movie at a time. And so I pour everything I have. Now, I had a producing partner on Proxy that I can sort of hand over a lot of the reins to when we're on set, but I enjoy the producing aspect as well. I like hiring the people, I like finding the locations, I enjoy working on the schedule and putting the budget together. No, not really. I mean, I think a lot about a film before I even start to write it. And like I said, I had a writing partner on this film, Kevin Donner. And so we just had a lot of conversations about what it was going to be, and then he went in and sort of did a draft, and then we would talk about it, and we'd go back and do another draft. And no, I like delving in and thinking about it. And I knew Christina Kleeb, who plays Annika. I knew her a bit through, in my previous film, I had an actress named Hannah Hall. And Christina and Hannah were both in Rob Zombie's Halloween together. And so I met Christina through Hannah at some of the horror conventions in the States. We were just now starting the script for Proxy, and I just felt that this would be something that she could do really well at. I mean, I'm always looking to give an actor a part that's a departure from anything they've played before. Alexia Rasmussen and Alexa Havens were just part of a list of actresses that they sent me that I interviewed, and I just felt that both of them were perfect for the part. They loved it for all the right reasons. There's a lot of difficult stuff in this film for an actress to do, and they seem to be really excited about the challenge of that, and that got me excited about working with them. I live in the Midwest, and the actors are in either Los Angeles or New York. I don't really get to meet them ahead of time until they get to set. And so I just like to have a lot of conversations one-on-one with them over the phone about the character. Not even so much of the story, but just the character. And each one of the actors sort of built their own backstory for the character. I mean, I had my ideas of what they would be, but I like the actors to bring their own information to the table as well. And so again, we just sort of, talked about not projecting anything on the character, not judging the character, and letting it play out naturally and let these twists sort of come out naturally, and try to be very careful about the foreshadowing of things so that we can keep the surprises. The way I worked with Kevin was, again, we had many conversations about the story, and then once we felt we had a good handle on it, he went and would write about 10 or 15 pages, and I would read those and give him notes, and then he would go back and rewrite those, and we would just keep moving forward like that in chunks. And then once the whole script was complete and we felt good about it, I went back and I rewrote the entire script, because I feel like as the director I need to get the script in my bones. You know, I need to get it inside, I need to let it filter through me, and then I can start incorporating some of the visuals into it, and again, more of the structure that I know I want to explore. So I write for locations I know I can get. I know I write for the amount of cast I know I'll be able to afford. Proxy is my 4th feature, so I have a pretty good experience with putting a film together, so I have a pretty good sense of how much things are going to cost, and I have good relationships with rental places for equipment, and so I very much try to write within the means that I know I can acquire to make a film. It's frustrating, but also it pushes you more creatively, you know, like if you want to do something, you need to find a way to make it work. So I always have the producer-director struggle happening between me. I think that, you know, it needs to be based in reality, but I think that cinema can also get away with being very heightened as well. I think there are sequences in this film that are almost kind of operatic, you know? Again, it's sort of just trusting what feels right to you. And I'm always trying to make something that I myself would want to see. I mean, the visuals are very important to me. So it's not so much does it feel real, but is it interesting? A lot has changed. The amount of money I'm able to acquire to make a film. You learn so much when you make a movie. I always describe when I went into the first film, like I didn't even know what I didn't know. And so you learn a lot in terms of story, you learn a lot in terms of how to spend money, you learn a lot in terms of how you work with actors. And masterful filmmakers talk about that each film they're still learning, you know? You never feel like, okay, I know all there is to know about filmmaking now. I mean, you just learn so much each time around. And so I'm very anxious about taking everything I learned on Proxy and applying it to the next thing I do. You know, there's just things story-wise that you wish you would have done a little differently, or I could have done that, or I wish I could have done that a little bigger or done that a little smaller. It's tough to articulate, you know. It's sometimes not even something you realize until you're writing the next thing and you're in a moment in the screenplay and you're like, oh, you know, I remember on the last one that didn't work as well as I thought it would, so I should try to do something differently here. Or I did that before, and so I need to do something differently here. So you're not repeating yourself. I mean, I learn so much from every film that I see. I think you can learn more from bad movies than you can from good movies, because you learn what not to do. Yeah. You know, and again, sometimes you can't articulate what's wrong with it until you see it happen, or you sit in an audience. I mean, I make sure that I go to the movie theater generally at least once a week, if not 3 times a week. I try to see everything that comes out new. I watch a lot of films at home. Now with video on demand and all that, you can watch a lot more stuff sooner. Because I'm constantly learning. I'm a bona fide cinephile. I love consuming movies. Well, I mean, there's a few movies I had growing up that I love, that I'll always love, that now when I go back and watch, it's like, wow, that's not really a well-made movie. But I mean, like Teen Wolf was a movie I was obsessed with when I was growing up. I don't know why, you know, but Teen Wolf is still something that every time it comes on TV, I'll still watch it all the way through. I would love to do a sort of epic sci-fi movie about time travel. I'd like to make the 2001: A Space Odyssey film about time travel. Kevin and I are just about to finish up a new screenplay. I've been very fortunate so far in that I've been able to make every film I've ever written. But this is a script that I started nearly 13 years ago. Back in 2000, I wrote the first 30 pages of it, and I realized after those 30 pages that I wasn't smart enough to make this movie. Like, not only smart enough as a writer, as a filmmaker, but just as a human being, I wasn't smart enough. I'm glad I didn't try to make that movie then. Also, I was realizing it was a very expensive movie. And so when Kevin and I first met, I actually brought him on board. It was after Scalene to start writing this one again. And then we got quite a ways through it, and I realized it was, again, going to be too expensive. I wasn't going to be able to achieve the budget. I needed to pull it off. So we put it aside, and we started writing Proxy instead. And now, with luckily sort of some of the success that Proxy's having, I'm in a position where it looks like I will be able to make that film next. And so we're very close to finishing the screenplay, and we hope to be shooting it in the summer of next year. I've been growing more and more in love with Lars von Trier's work. I really loved Antichrist and Melancholia. I think he's one of the most exciting filmmakers out there right now. Also, I love Gaspar Noé's stuff, like Irreversible and Enter the Void. I thought were amazing, and he's one of the most innovative filmmakers out there right now. Also, Pascal Laugier, who did Martyrs, and I think it was called The Secret over here, but The Tall Man in the States. Yeah. I think, again, he's incredibly great about misdirection with an audience, and I think that's really rare in filmmaking, and something I was experimenting with in Proxy as well, is using a lot of misdirection for the audience. I was very interested in writing and drawing comic books for a long time, and so that might have been something to pursue. But I don't know. I've been a stay-at-home dad now for 8 years, so I might have just ended up being a stay-at-home dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
It was very nice.
Okay, very good. Thank you.